Here to provide an update on a hazmat incident which happened earlier this morning here on the 4000 block of Teasdale Street. As you can see, we have our fire department partners along with us, and we're going to start with Commissioner Outlaw. Commissioner.
Hi everybody, I'll just give you a high-level overview of everything that we know thus far. At about 10:35 this morning in the 4000 block of Teasdale Street, fire department actually responded for a call of a hospital case for an unresponsive male in the basement of the property. When they arrived, the male, who is still unidentified but appears to be approximately 30 years old, was pronounced on scene by the fire department medics, at which point the police were called. A white powdery substance was noted throughout the basement and on the deceased male. A 22-year-old Hispanic female and a 6-month-old baby were on location as well, and were transported to Jefferson Torres for treatment. As the adult female, went unresponsive in the fire department's presence, and she was revived by PFD medics. Multiple PPD officers and PFD personnel were decontaminated due to possible exposure. At this point, there are no overt injuries to city personnel. As I mentioned, one PPD officer was transported also for precautionary reasons. As the scene is being held, there's a criminal investigation underway. You see a lot of us out here on the PPD end. We have our Special Victims Unit, our Northeast Detectives Division, and our Narcotics Field Unit are also involved. At this point, we have reason to believe very preliminarily that the white powdery substance was fentanyl. At this point, we'll open it up for any questions that we have.
Commissioner, the age of, or the gender of the baby, male or female?
Was the baby a male or female? Do we know?
No.
I'm not ready to confirm that yet.
Used to revive the woman.
Narcan.
And the gentleman was already deceased as soon as medics arrived?
That's correct.
Okay. Is this believed because of the amount that this was an operation, or was this for personal use and something went wrong based off what you're seeing?
I think it's still a little bit too early to tell as far as whether or not this was for personal use, for later distribution. We'll definitely find that out as we continue to work on their identifications, their previous history, location history, all of those things. Obviously, the entire thing is unsettling.
Commissioner, is this house known to you all? Is it a drug house, or any responses from?
We're still pretty early, again, in the investigation. As soon as we do some further work with our narcotics folks on identifying these individuals, I think we'll be able to give you a little bit more of an answer on that.
What's the relationship between the three? Family?
We don't know at this time.
Is there reason to believe that the baby was exposed to this substance as well?
Well, the baby was transported, obviously for precautionary reasons. Obviously, if the adult female, we believe she was exposed, there's a strong likelihood that the baby was also.
And for neighbors, they see this, they get really spooked, really scared about what's going on. What would you tell them about the situation at this point?
I would continue to, obviously we have the scene contained at this point, and I think it was important to not only let you guys, even though it's, preliminary, let you know what we have now, but to also alert folks and let them know that we don't believe there's any additional reason for concern. But I think this is a good opportunity to remind everyone, if you see anything that's out of the ordinary, whether it's people walking in and out of homes, transporting packages or whatever it is, unusual smells, or if there's, reason to call the police on previous occasions, to please do so, so we can get ahead of these things before something like this happens today.
Commissioner, were there any other drugs or guns, anything done in the house?
I'm not able to report on that yet. We're actually still decontaminating the house at this time. You see, it's a lot of equipment out here, a lot of gear, and we have to do everything in a safe manner to ensure that we don't expose the first responders to something harmful as well.
How were police notified and called here?
We were notified by the fire department. The fire department responded. This was a medical call initially, and once they found the decedent in the basement and covered in the substance, we were notified.
Can you give a number? How many hazmats? How many people responded to this?
I think it's a little early.
Yeah. So our one of our medic units responded. We had an engine company. As soon as they saw what they thought might be a hazardous materials incident, they called in additional resources. So we have probably upwards of 50 fire department personnel here. EMS, hazmat, our special operations team. We also have our partners from the Office of Emergency Management here, and again, this is great teamwork with our partners from PPD. So again, you can see here we're going to be out here for a while.
Commissioner, unfortunately you hear about people overdosing on fentanyl too often. What, I guess, made it different with this situation where we see such a high level of response?
Well, it's not, I mean, we're doing this every day all around the city. So our medics are reviving an average of 10 to 12 patients every day with Narcan, and I know that the police department is reviving people with Narcan too. So it's not an unusual thing to revive somebody with Narcan. That's happening all day, every day, all around the city. In this case, obviously there was a large quantity involved. It was not known to be an opioid overdose. That was not how the call was dispatched. It was dispatched as simply a person down. So obviously our medics very quickly identified the problem with the one individual, and then as they had somebody who became unresponsive in front of them, these are highly trained folks, the best in the business, busiest medics in the entire industry. So they administered Narcan and had positive results.
What's the standard operating procedure? These guys go in there, they see this white substance. What comes next? Can you walk us through the steps?
What comes next is all the stuff you see behind me. Now that's a great point. So this was a fire engine and a medic unit, essentially 6 people who often respond to incidents where they have no idea what's going on. Remember, we never have home field advantage. There's no database that tells us who's living where or who's doing what. It's not like a television show. So they are literally going to this incident blind with only the information provided by the 911 caller and our dispatchers at police radio and our fire communication center dispatchers. So as they go in, they really are having to build the picture of that incident as they walk in. So our medics very quickly and properly identified this as an incident requiring a larger response. So they called on their radios for the police department, as well as a full, what we call a hazmat box, which is our hazardous materials task force, several other engine companies and ladder companies from nearby, additional command officers, battalion chiefs, our hazmat battalion chief from down in South Philly. So a huge response for this, and that is because of the quantity of the material that is involved. And obviously, usually you're not seeing quantities of these materials that are sufficient to, like we saw in here. It's smaller doses, but a small dose can kill, particularly with fentanyl, and that's a really important thing to remember. Fentanyl, it's not a unitary product. You just don't know what dose you're getting. The dose makes the poison, as we say in hazmat. So it's really important to understand that a very little bit of these substances, if that's indeed what it is, as the preliminary indications indicate, as Commissioner Outlaw said, a little bit can kill. So, and obviously, if you do suspect anybody who is experiencing an opioid use disorder overdose, call 911 immediately, because time matters.
What can we expect to see over the next few hours? Will neighbors see the roads reopening again very soon?
Commish?
What comes next?
Next few hours?
Yeah.
Well, I have investigators here from the detective division, from special victims, along with narcotics. We're going to get a search warrant for the house and process the scene, and then we're going to move from there. So we don't know, we're going to have to do our own testing in our laboratory, and then we'll confer with the district attorney. So we'll see what we have at this point.
So as far as like Cottman, Frankfurt, when are those roads going to be reopened?
I wouldn't be able to tell you that until we clear out the equipment and get everything secured. We'll reopen them.
Is it true that some of the neighbors were evacuated from their homes?
I'm not sure that either. Some of them surrounding that particular location were. Part of this, remember, they were bringing people out, so we didn't know how much of the substance we brought out, so that's why they had to.
And when will they be able to return home?
I think that is coming very shortly. We have to move all our equipment before we're able to do that.
Okay, thanks very much. As the investigation's going, we'll send out the rest.